President Biden met with Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier today in California. In fact, the meeting's still going on, hoping to stabilize U.S.-China relations in a year that brought us spy balloons overhead and secret Chinese police stations in American cities. The world leaders are expected to announce a fentanyl regulation agreement, as well as plans for keeping AI programs away from nuclear launch command centers. But given the strained relations between the countries, as well as ongoing geopolitical issues, including two hot wars in Israel and Ukraine, what outcome can we expect? What is the best way forward? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Chris Smith. He is the chairman of the Congressional Executive Commission on China. He is also the senior member on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. He represents the 4th Congressional District of New Jersey, and he joins us by phone. Congressman Smith, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate being on, and thank you for your great work.
Well, let's appreciate that. Let's start with this. What do you expect from today's meeting between President Biden and the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping?
Very little. You know, the Biden administration has been weak and vacillating, and I don't think that that's not taken all into consideration by Xi Jinping. I mean, our exodus out of Afghanistan was egregiously flawed, and they always write about it in their propaganda organs. And I read their op-eds. They tell the people of Taiwan, don't think America has your back. Look what they did to their own Americans and to their allies in Afghanistan with that horrific, exodus that left people behind. So he goes in, I think, very much debilitated by his own miscues and mistakes and flaws when it comes to foreign policy, and that has a profound impact on any possible outcomes. You know, I saw one estimate one person within the administration, saying that the fact that the two are talking is a good thing. Please give me a break. I mean, they're committing genocide right now against the Uyghurs. They're upping their religious persecution, including there's a new report just came out by Hong Kong Watch about how Hong Kong is getting worse when it comes to religious freedom, and they're doing it all throughout the country, just crushing Christianity or trying to. And it's just awful. And then, of course, forced abortion, particularly as a genocide tool. And they're killing tens of thousands, and I have a bill that passed to try to stop it. It's pending in the Senate. Tens of thousands of average-age 28-year-olds to get their organs. That's right out of Nazi Germany. Is Biden going to raise that? Is he going to raise the genocide that's being perpetrated upon the Uyghurs? And you know it. You ran the Religious Freedom Commission, just how horrible and egregious that really is. And, they'll make nice and talk about friendship. And, well, he's talking to a dictator. You got to talk to him.
Right.
But it's got to be with a very serious human rights agenda.
I mean, when you go back and you came in with Ronald Reagan, he had conversations with Russian leaders, but it was very clear and direct what America was looking for. At the opening of their meeting today, President Biden said, look, we're not looking for conflict. We want competition, but we don't want that to veer into conflict. Do you think the Chinese are looking at this the same way? I don't think they're afraid of conflict.
No, I don't think they are either. And I think don't talk about it like it's competition between a football team. These are people who commit atrocities each and every day. It's like, Israel has a competition with Hamas. No, Hamas is committing crimes against humanity like China is each and every day. It's not a competition. It is an attempt that we should be making to stand with the oppressed people of China and all those they seek to hurt, which is particularly in the region, all the countries that are in proximity to them, including especially the Philippines lately. So it's a real problem, and Taiwan is in the crosshairs. It's not a competition. But again, we need to be so clear about, human rights, because they look at us and they say it's a talking point on page 15 of the president's agenda here. It's not there. And as a senator, he did the same thing, Tony. He was so weak on human rights in China when he was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the United States Senate. Why do we expect something different now?
I want to go to some of the issues that was raised in a letter that was sent by the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, chaired by Congressman Mike Gallagher. This was sent to President Biden in advance of this meeting. And one of the things that they were, well, actually, there's a whole laundry list of things that they were hoping the president would address, including the fentanyl crisis, this flow of deadly fentanyl across our borders, the fact that Americans are still being held in China. They're being held prisoner, haven't been released. They bring up the issues of the lack of access to Chinese markets from American producers, the tensions in Taiwan, the provocation, military provocation that we're seeing with the Chinese military toward ours, and the list goes on. Do you think the president is going to address any of these issues?
Maybe tangentially, but not in a substantive way. Again, the expectations have already been downplayed by his own staff, so I don't expect much to come out of it. But again, access to their markets, we've been talking about that forever, and we play not hardball, but weak ball. And they're an exporting economy. If we said you can't export the way you have been unless human rights are tied to MFN, we get changes.
Right. Do you think that Biden...
I had a hearing yesterday, Tony, on cobalt. All of it's coming out of the DR Congo. It's for EVs, and I have a bill that I'm introducing, a second one, that would really say anything they produce in China that comes from DR Congo with child and slave labor is inadmissible to the United States unless they can prove otherwise.
That's the approach the Trump administration was taking. They were playing hardball with China. That is the approach to the Trump administration.
They were tough, predictable, and they did not play games where, statements are made by this chief executive, Joe Biden, that makes it sound like when he talked about competition. Please, get rid of that word. It's not competition. These people are purveyors of gross human rights abuse. They have hegemony aspirations throughout the region, and I would say the entire world. That's like saying we had a competition with the Nazi Germany or Imperial Japan. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Right, you have to have a common goal. You have to have a common goal if you're going to be in competition with someone else. Right. And you say they have a different goal. Their goal is to dominate the world, however it needs to be done. And I think.
And Tony, even on climate change. Now, the president,
that probably is going to be talked about.
He'll veto it.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that. In terms of stopping child labor that's making cobalt or mining cobalt. Many of those kids are dying, 35 to 40,000 a year, 200,000 adults. And there's an MOU that isn't worth the paper it's printed on, really. They ought to do their own production in DR Congo. Instead, they're getting paid off by the Chinese Communist Party.
But part of this
is
the belt.
Comes here in Teslas and other cars.
A part of this is the Belt and Road Initiative, where China
right.
is expanding its reach, and in fact, many places taking over properties because these countries can't afford to pay the loans that they've gotten from China, and so they're doing this for their rare earth minerals, and so we're feeding that. We're feeding that with our electric cars. All this other stuff that we're pushing is actually fueling this overreach by China and building up their material wealth. Congressman Chris Smith, we're out of time, but always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Tony, thank you so very much for having me on.